Hi, I am Dongheui Lee from Technical University of Munich and German Aerospace Center DLR. In this talk, I would like to present our research on interactive and incremental robot learning. In this work, we follow the framework of learning from the demonstrations, or called imitation learning. In imitation learning and robotics, human expert knowledge is transferred to a robot. For that, there are three well-known teaching modalities: human motion imitation, kinesthetic teaching, in other words, physical guidance, and teleoperation. The first approach to gather demonstration is motion retargeting from a human bodily motion to a robot bodily motion. An expert can easily demonstrate skills in a natural way, and a student can learn the general concept of the synchronized and whole body skills by observing the teacher. We developed different retargeting algorithms and applied them to different humanoid robots. We'll see that robots can imitate humans' upper body motion and also lower body motions like lifting up food or walking. DLR bipedal robot Toro can imitate the humans' knee-stretched walking. However, the transfer from the teacher's demonstrations to the student's skills is not always straightforward. This is called the retargeting or correspondence problem. The teacher and learner have different kinematics and dynamics. Also, depending on the task, the desired mapping may change. So, what is the optimal imitation or retargeting function? Finding the ultimately optimal retargeting cost function is still unsolved problem. This leads us to another approach to learning under supervision, which is called kinesthetic teaching. In this kinesthetic teaching paradigm, the learner does not need to take care of the correspondence problem because the teacher holds the robot body and guides it physically. Kinesthetic teaching is widely used in the research community due to its simplicity in the hardware setting, but it is suitable for teaching only one task, like End-Effector motion. It is hard to teach synchronized whole body motion of high degrees of freedom robot. One way to tackle this is an incremental learning approach using heterogeneous teaching modalities, namely both imitation and kinesthetic teaching. In this way, we can utilize the advantage of the both approaches. Look at the overview of this approach. First, using retargeting, the robot can learn general synchronized whole body motion. Then this data goes into the incremental learning. The received demonstrations are encoded into movement primitives, like hidden Markov models. Then robot behavior can be generated using the regression technique. And when human sees the need of correcting a specific part of the behavior of a specific part of the body, then the goes to the kinesthetic teaching, and for the good tracking of the learned skill and provide comfortable the teaching or correction, we designed impedance control using the nonlinear stiffness. And this new demonstration is going back to again our incremental learning. With this idea, I taught the DRR robot Justin the perfection dance. At the first step, I showed dance to the robot, and the robot learned the general idea of the whole body synchronized motion. But as you can see from this video, the robot hand was too high than my original intention. Thus, I refined the motion of the hand with physical coaching while the robot is executing the already learned dance. Using this new demonstration, movement primitives is incrementally updated. Actually, kinesthetic teaching is widely used among researchers because it doesn't require the motion capturing systems. So the question is how to teach high-dimensional tasks while keeping the simplicity of the setup. The idea is augmenting skills by teaching one skill like End-Effector motion, and then teaching another skill like elbow motion or Null-Space motion on top of the previously learned End-Effector motion. We formulate this problem as prioritized multitask problem between the learned behavior and currently teaching the target tasks. Let's look at the video. So first, a human user teaches the End-Effector of a robot. Now, while robot is executing the first tasks, and the human is teaching now secondary task. And this is skill on top of on and then augmented. And then the robot can learn both tasks simultaneously. There are further challenging questions in kinesthetic teaching. Kinesthetic teaching force can act as a disturbance to robots. Especially it can make a bipedal robot, like a Toro at DRR, balancing unstable. How to minimize such side effect of the kinesthetic teaching? Can industrial robots learn tasks like pick and place in a systematic changing environment only by haptic information without using any vision? Motion retargeting and kinesthetic teaching modalities suit well for teaching motions, and kinesthetic teaching requires to share workspace of the human and robot. In contrast, teleoperation is more suitable for teaching robots where human accessibility is limited, like underwater, outer space, search and rescue. Also, it is useful to teach tasks which require to control force profile, like grasping, since the learner and teacher can exchange proprioceptive sensory data. In the grasping task learning, when force is learned together with the movement information, the learned skill is more generalizable for the different situation than only when movement is learned. However, teleoperation-based teaching modality has also its bottleneck besides special hardware requirements. For example, It might be not straightforward to use a surgical robot, Da Vinci, right away, but one has to take a course to get used to this system. It is known that the manual teleoperation has high cognitive workload. In fact, when we demonstrate the same tasks using different teaching modalities, we get different qualities of the demonstration. In other words, the training data set. Consider this simple task of repetitive packing haul. A robotics PhD student was asked to demonstrate this packing haul task by kinesthetic teaching and by teleoperation. While kinesthetic teaching demonstrations were more consistent, teleoperation demonstrations showed high spatial and temporal variation and high cost for the demonstrations. Sometimes demonstrator could not complete the task from beginning to the end. In order to maximize the use of the lower quality and incomplete demonstration from the teleoperation, we developed a new learning algorithm. Briefly speaking, we formulate this as the dynamical movement primitives, DMP. It has the canonical system for the time information, phase variable S, and it has the second order nonlinear dynamical systems. And this nonlinear forcing term is encoded as the Gaussian mixture model. In conventional approach, this nonlinear forcing terms are encoded together with these phase variables. Also, the time series demonstrations are aligned by the dynamic time mapping as the preprocessing. In our approach, in order to handle high variation in time and location and incomplete demonstrations, we introduced completely unknown phase variables, and we tried to estimate this during the training procedure so that the demonstrations are aligned and patched in unsupervised way. With this approach, demonstrations are synchronized by estimating latent phase variables, and robot can execute the complete packing haul task successfully. We saw two control modes: fully teleoperated system during training data collection phase, and fully autonomous control after learning completed. Learning enables the robot to become fully autonomous agent from a slave system. We have been extending this to shared control, where two control inputs from human operator and learned model should be merged in a consistent manner. Both the human operator and artificial agent can adjust their control input easily by haptic and visual feedback by estimating state and phase variable. With this, packing haul task is distributed between the control agents, like horizontal motion by the artificial agent and vertical motion by a human operator. This reduces humans' cognitive load. But what if a slight change in the learned task or the slave environment occurs, like in this figure? A hole became blocked. An approach to solve this problem would be a human-agent shared teleoperation, where human takes the care of the unexpected situation. What we propose in our ICRA 2020 paper is one step further. Incremental learning on the fly. Here, we introduce dynamic authority distribution which is a one-way energy monitoring algorithm observing inflows and outflows of the energy from the human operator. When autonomous agent executes the task, and there is a need to intervene, then human takes control from the agent on the fly. Then human starts to exert the force through the master device against agent motion. Thus, human force and ultimately the energy is increasing. Thus, the authority of the human is increasing. Also, in the same way, the agent's authority decreases. So here is the experimental result. Here shows the 3 consecutive cycles of the periodic packing-hold task. In the first cycle, the agent dominantly controls the learned task, while human supervises without any intervention. Then all of a sudden, the environment is changed and one hole became blocked. In the second phase, the human operator takes authority and corrects the slave behavior partially. And at the same time, model gets updated. In the third cycle, the artificial agent is able to perform the modified task, and human does not need to intervene. We also carried out NASA TLX test. The test results showed that the human workload is reduced using dynamic authority and kinesthetic coupling. For the more details, please check our ICRA paper. Let me conclude my talk. Today, I mainly discussed about incremental learning. As a baseline, I introduced 3 basic teaching modalities for robot learning from human demonstrations. As the first incremental learning algorithm, I introduced a mixture of heterogeneous teaching modalities, where a skill is learned initially by imitating the other, and then corrected by physical coaching. Next, I explained a skill augmentation method in order to learn multiple tasks only via kinesthetic teaching. Last, on-the-fly, incremental learning through supervisory teleoperation is proposed. As ongoing work in the related research area, we are developing a new interactive teaching methodology and carrying out a user study. We are evaluating different interaction modes and task knowledge representations, especially the effect of the active involvement of artificial agent during the training data collection is being investigated. Thank you for listening. I also would like to thank my collaborators. And for further information, please feel free to contact me.